Hello and welcome to the Great Indian Gaming Podcast, episode number 2. Guys, say hi.
Hello.
Wait.
Drum
roll.
Please, drum roll. Yeah.
So today in the studio we have the legendary Hrishi Oberoi.
The veteran.
Now we need a drum roll, bro.
Welcome to the Indian Gaming Podcast.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
So yeah, Hrishi, just a quick introduction for the audience.
Legendary, so you want to say when a person's like after he's got grey hair and stuff like that. It's like a easy introduction, right? There's a big difference between legendary and old. At this point, I feel I'm just old.
Can we call it legendary, please? Because I'll be a semi-legend. I have like a few strands.
So just to give you an idea of old, I started in the industry in 2002. My name is Hrishi Oberoi. I joined a company called Indiagames. So I've been making games since then, and we built Indiagames for 10 years. I ran the production team there. We sold the company to Disney, and then in Disney I ran the Disney Interactive team for 3 years. Post which I got out and I started my own studio. So
Yeah, you were one of the core members of the team, right? Like, matlab, 2002. This is 2002, right?
2002.
And you were a part of the tech department. You used to code and all.
I was hired as a programmer.
Okay.
So
So, you were hired as a programmer, but from what little bit I know about your career, you've pretty much gone through every aspect of.
no, I didn't do any art. Let's put it that way. But so I'll tell you what I did. My background is actually in computer graphics. I did my master's in computer graphics.
What
So
are
you
you
did
saying?
know how to
so
do
you're-
art.
yeah, so that's what. Right?
So I actually way back in the day I wrote my own rendering engine as well. My own software renderer. I mean that was like literally only part of college. That's the only real hardcore graphics thing that we did because it was so low level. You had to write it yourself. And then, but what I realized is that I'm a very lazy person. I tell you that very frankly. So I realized that the best way to get out of what I was doing is to get promoted. So then I joined as a programmer. I programmed for about 2 or 3 years, and in the middle of programming also I was leading the team. And then once the team became bigger, then there's much more management to do. And then you realize that, and then I became like a producer and then a team leader and a studio head. And, basically heading production is basically doing everything and understanding how everything works also.
Yeah. The other day you were telling me about this the architecture that you and Srini built for this. You remember the story that you were telling me about?
I don't remember which one you're talking about,
Dude,
but I can tell you the thing. So
the engine. Yeah.
No, I won't take any credit for that. Ice 3D is what we called it. I won't get into the details of why it was called Ice 3D, but it was a 3D game engine that we built before there was any other 3D game engine on the mobile phone. It's crazy, and it's actually the team who ended up doing it. There's I was working with some young programmers just recently, and they were asking me engine programming kahan pe seekhu? So I was like, all the hardcore tech guys that I know, they're all self-taught. And even though I had done the course, I come from the university, Srini was completely self-taught, right? And he and Arjun Nair, and we had like a guy who ended up at Sony PlayStation, and all these guys, they're the ones who built the engine, right? And we didn't have a choice. We were doing 3D games. There were a few 3D APIs, but we realized, listen, for every platform, if we're going to make the same game again and again and again, we might as well create an engine. So engine bana diya humne.
So basically, when we were playing Snake on our phones, you were making 3D engines. You were making the Spider-Man game.
Before I built the Spider-Man game also, one thing I like to say now, and then like when you think about it, then you remember, is that I think I was the person who built the first mobile cricket game ever.
Wow.
Because think about it, right?
Wow.
Mobile games started coming. Like I never knew about mobile games till I come back. And again, credit to Indiagames and Vishal who came up with the idea. We're going to build, mobile games.
Yeah.
And I joined exactly at the right time. And he said, "Nee, हमें तो cricket करना है. So we have to do cricket. We are sitting in India. Why aren't we doing cricket?" And we did. So I said, "Okay, fine. We'll figure out."
But at that time, that's also very visionary, yeah. By the way, like having a cricket game on mobile phone, it's very visionary.
Yeah, it was very visionary. We saw this. Of course, it still happens everywhere. You see a game somewhere and you get inspired.
Yeah.
So you're like, see this cricket game. Like a very simple game. Person's bowling and you have to just click and you hit the ball. Right, click and you hit left. You'll hit a off drive and you hit right. You'll hit on drive. And you hit straight. You click straight in this. So this is an online flash game at that time, right? So we can easily make this in Java. Let's do it. And our Java business was really starting to, become big, starting to build up. And literally at that time, Indiagames, like the operators didn't have a method to distribute games. And Indiagames worked with those teams and said, "No, listen, right? This is how you create a CDN and you put the games on this thing, and this is we built half the stuff for them, and then we help them distribute the game, right?" And at that time, so
अच्छा ऐसा भी होता है.
But and now those guys, of course, now have become like all that has died, right? All the operator business and all. And at that time, the only games that were there was on the Nokia phones, right?
Yeah.
Nokia S60, S40, and S30. So even in that
Small screen space.
96 by 30 something pixels. Yeah, the character
That
playing
is
cricket.
insane. That is insane.
That is quite crazy. Actually.
I can imagine how hard it must have been to actually build games back in the day, right? क्योंकि I mean आपके पास कोई visual editor नहीं था. अभी Unity.
The best thing right now, no YouTube.
खुद का game engine बनाना पड़ता था,
Yeah, so there was no YouTube, but the internet did exist.
Yeah.
Right, so and that's what I'm saying, right? And frankly, I don't think I made as much use of it as what I learned from my team and the way Srini self-taught, and we had a designer called Wasim who did all the art and all. You have to pick up all the stuff yourself. You have the softwares, you pick it up, you put it together. I learned how to put 3D engines and all together, but just off the internet, Srini just used OpenGL and DirectX and created this whole, this thing. How the hell did you do that?
It's insane.
And I was like, oh wait, it's actually very simple. I just didn't think about doing it. And that's the thing. That's the difference between. I think that's the difference between knowing the tools and knowing how to use the tools.
Yeah, I think that's what is lacking right now, because मैं जो बोल रहा हूँ ना, YouTube नहीं है, और it's like in your time, right? वो Google में जाके उसको ढूंढना and then figuring out something else using that knowledge was the challenge, was the biggest challenge.
Excess is a problem.
Yeah.
There's so much information that people don't know what to look for. YouTube पे जाकर they find these come on, I've been around since before YouTube existed. A lot of people who come to us, they grew up with YouTube, right? Everything that they learned, did YouTube was just. I think we have guys now who are born after 2000, and I was like, so obviously they grew up with YouTube, right?
Dude, I feel old.
Who, me? but problem I have to tell them that, listen, why are you looking at universities and things like that? YouTube, and just go and take a look at the tutorial videos of, if you want to learn any game engine, Unity, Unreal, whatever, just go and find out what the right channels are, and you guys are the professionals of searching the internet. You grow up with that.
Yeah.
So how difficult at that time? How difficult for you finding a job in Indiagames was? I mean,
Very easy.
was it planned? मतलब game बनाना है, was that planned?
Not exactly. So, I got into my master's in computer graphics. Not by chance. I knew that I wanted to do computer graphics. I wasn't sure that it's going to get me a proper job, right? And I did my master's in George Washington University. So the plan was always get a job in the US because you spent so much money. Now you have to make that money back, right? You come back to India, you're not going to make money, especially the first few years, right? And so the idea was, okay, I've gotten computer graphics because entertainment field, though it had to be, right? Either VFX or animation or game.
So that you knew.
It had to be. It's computer graphics means it had to be there. Unfortunately, I ended up graduating at a time when the .com bust happened.
Oh.
So 2001, when I was looking for a job, there was zero job. Just the year before that, everyone was like $100,000, $90,000, stock options,
And the Y2K thing also.
And Y2K we have. So. And then suddenly everyone's like, stock options became like toilet paper. So just before leaving, someone suggested that, listen, they're like, I know this guy, he's doing games, maybe you can get in touch with him. So even before I came back, I wrote to Vishal, and that time they was like very early. So it was actually, I'm super lucky, and you cannot discount luck.
No, never.
You cannot say it's not just all hard work and whatever smart and all. You have to take luck into consideration.
But a lot of times you do make your own luck, right? Like you kind of went after Vishal. You sent him the mail.
Yeah. I mean, I had to send.
You took that opportunity, right? So
Yeah. I did. It's very difficult today in some areas, and very easy today in some areas, and vice versa back then, right? Opportunities were a lot fewer back then, but there were much fewer people who were looking out for those positions, right? And who were like kind of qualified, right? And a handful of companies, and luckily companies were hiring, but you don't have the technology, you have to learn everything from scratch. There's not that availability of knowledge these days.
Yeah, a while ago we were also talking about the same thing. हम लोग बोल रहे थे. He was asking me कि bro तूने इंडिया गेम्स ही क्यों चुना? like वही तो सुना था.
that's all there was. Yeah.
और कुछ सुना ही नहीं था मैंने. वही था. That was
lucky to be in Bombay also.
Yeah.
True,
yeah.
very true.
Yeah. So, but because I mean there was
Dhruva na वो time.
Dhruva was there, and even Paradox was there.
Yeah, Paradox also.
Even Nazara was there, but Nazara was not making.
Nazara was afterwards. 2006 I think. 2005 2006 शुरू हुआ था.
Nazara. Okay.
Nitesh is younger. Yeah.
What do you think about the आज का market जो है game India में gaming का market, game for jobs for gaming, the talent that's coming out? What are your opinions on what's happening today?
The market. Let's talk about the market first, right? It's crazy. It's crazy and growing. PUBG last year made what, $100 million in India only? What? What? I would have never believed that. Like one game made $100 million in India only. That's mad. So clearly there's been some crazy amount of growth. Not to say, I don't know, second game, third game, fourth game, whether they'll make even like half that much, I don't know. And so there's clearly been like the right place, the right time. So the market is definitely growing, right? One thing's for sure, I've always been pretty positive of the market. Market will definitely grow. I'm not one of those who will say inflection point, hockey stick, all that kind of stuff. I don't know, right? But growth is definitely there year on year. And I've been seeing this for 20 years.
Yeah, it's been there.
Yeah. Like, a few years ago, it was all like, especially when, the bass market had gone crazy, where you only played on, feature phones and all. At that time, a lot of people said it's all fake. and a lot of it was fake because there was a lot of chuna lagate the and stuff. Anyway, but now it's real and you can see it, right? Google won't tell you the numbers and Apple won't tell you the numbers, but from what they tell you, you can sort of determine that the growth is real.
Yeah, and their efforts also to come to India and do all these things that they're doing right now.
Exactly. So market is definitely growing.
I feel like the revenues in India still suffer. Yeah, like the number of downloads you need to generate. Yeah, okay, it is easier to generate downloads comparatively, but the number of downloads you need to generate in India to make a decent amount of money to keep a studio running, if you're a product company, that is very difficult.
Very
unless,
difficult.
Yeah, unless you're hitting the top 100.
But
top 100.
also the question is, how good are those games?
Yeah, because what I feel is intent बढ़ गया है. मतलब intent is growing. People are open to spend money.
It is. I wouldn't say they're completely open. I don't think we've got to that point yet. ठीक है, PUBG is there, but PUBG is an exception.
Yeah.
PUBG is an exception that falls under the category of things like Team Patti. It's sort of there now. But I think अभी भी intent मुझे नहीं लगता, जो भी हमारा experience रहा है अब तक, मुझे नहीं लगता है अब तक इंडिया में intent है, unless उनको पैसा वापस मिल रहा है, जो फिर नहीं हो जाता है.
So, but here's the thing that I want to. That's the point that I'm making, right? That ARPUs will be lower in India. That you have to take for granted.
Yeah.
That is the point that people are coming into India and thinking that India is going to be China, right? Which is not, right? India is not even going to be Indonesia, right? Which means the amount of money you will get per person will be low. Now, if you go into the business with that understanding, right? A, right? B, you go into it with a slightly broader angle, right? Not just we'll get downloads and we'll show ads, because that's the wrong way to make money. And when I'm saying PUBG is making $100 million, it's, I don't know how. I think zero is from ads.
Yeah, I think it's
A lot of it from
cosmetics,
the
IAPs.
in-app purchase.
It's all IAP, right? Now, building an IAP game is very, very difficult. Very difficult, right? And I don't know whether there's there's a handful who've done it reasonably well, right? But very few who target it for India, because now if you know how to build an IAP game, then might as well target it. Right? So then it becomes like, okay, I know how to do this, now why should I just limit myself to this thing? And then the people who don't know, it's like, हाँ, I'm just putting it on, मैं तो डाल दिया अभी download होके, मतलब ad देखेंगे लोग, पैसा मिलेगा.
Millionaire बन जाएगा मैं.
The usual.
It's very difficult. Now though it's difficult to get downloads also. It's not that you can get downloads that easily.
It is very difficult.
But the ARPUs, especially ad ARPUs, are so low.
You're looking at 30 cents CPM.
I mean,
It's nothing. It's negligible almost.
yeah. So I mean, like getting revenues from only ads is the wrong way to do it, right? So that's the market. I think there is a market, it's growing, but you have to be very, very smart to know how to, monetize that. And then of course there's the whole real money gaming.
Yeah, real money.
That's obviously people, you have to spend a lot of money also for that.
But if I was building for India, अगर मैं इंडिया के लिए बना रहा होता गेम, तो मैं actually ad model के लिए जाता था.
Right.
मैं in-app purchase model in India, it's just 1 out of 10,000 that will make it. The chances of making it.
No, I mean, see, when I'm saying the PUBG is in the number 1, then there's someone in number 2.
The grossing charts in India are dominated basically by the big Western players.
Exactly.
With humongous teams.
Exactly. No, that's the point that I'm making. That and that's even Apple and Google says the same thing. That everywhere in the world, except maybe Far East Asia and Southeast Asia, where China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, they make their games for themselves and they consume their own games.
Yeah.
right? Everywhere else in the world also is dominated by the big global guys, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing, that if you can hit to the level of big global guys, then why don't make it for the big global market?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But that's the thing. That what if you can make that kind of game and then still get to that level of even in the top 10, right? It's not 1 in 10,000. 1 in 10,000 is like saying that like 1 in 10,000 games get to the top 100. Well, that goes without saying.
No, I meant 1 in 10,000 in terms of the chances of actually succeeding with an IP based game. See, even to have 60% of your monetization come through IPs and 40% to come through ads, that in India still, I feel, is such a huge challenge.
I don't know. I think it depends on how the game is built, how it's
It
designed
is.
and how it's built.
It is, but okay, I'm just talking from my perspective. I'm running a small independent studio. Resources कम है, हमेशा fight चालू है to bring revenue in. तो वो actually in terms of business sense वो बहुत at least हमारे लिए बहुत risky है.
So I'll give you an example to add to what you're saying, right? We were doing Bluff Party, I think 3 years ago. We went through 6 months or 8 months of soft launch, which is what you need to do. For IP based game or free to play game, हम लोग को soft launch करना पड़ता है बहुत time के लिए और iterate करना पड़ता है. Every month सिर्फ एक market में release करके features बार बार iterate करके release करने पड़ते हैं updates. तो 6 months के बाद हम लोग को लगा कि we need another 18 months or so to just keep iterating before the game is ready for launch. और वो पैसा जो है the studios don't have. You know, so that's the real challenge is to build the IP game. Firstly, you need that a lot of experience firstly, and then you need some time, and for that time you need money. और वो money small studios के पास नहीं रहता है. So that becomes the challenge to do an IP game properly and get it to the top.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of Western studios already have, and even Eastern studios already have, a running start compared to Indian studios, because a lot of them already have the pedigree of building games for different platforms, and they get that pedigree into understanding, especially the understanding of RPG games, real-time strategy games and stuff like that. I didn't realize how much of that is so dependent on making a successful free-to-play mobile game, even if you're making like casino games or whatever it is, right? And those guys already know it, right? And the other thing is that one thing that I've noticed, and I also someone confirmed it for me, is that I think in India now we are very used to sort of thinking that one person does one job, right? Or not one job as such. When you're an entrepreneur, you do everything in any case, but one function does one thing.
Yeah.
And मेरा job नहीं है, right? कुछ भी कर लो चलेगा, right? So what happens is that like in the West, maybe it's cultural also, I don't know, that if a person is programming, a small team is programming, the programmer also has design skills, right? He also has art skills or UI skills or whatever. So it's very easy for like 1 or 2 people to build that game. Rather than here, we feel that no, we need a separate this guy, we need a separate that guy.
Your concept artist is one guy, and then your production artist is one guy.
I mean, if you're big enough, you can do that. But
Yeah.
But a lot of small studios के लिए it's not feasible, right, to hire all these positions.
But I think it makes more sense even if you have like the programmers who automatically think that way, or designers who automatically think that way, or artists who automatically.
And it's
think.
very difficult to find those people because
Very difficult.
yeah, because the difference that I see in the programmers is they are more into technical art का जो aspect है ना programmers का in the Western countries. They are very strong in that technical art where they program the shaders themselves. You don't have to tell them to मेरे को ये चाहिए. And this programmer, our programmers here is more of specifically focused on.
I have a theory on this, that culturally I think we've been raised so much. I think now it's a little bit less, but I think the way our schooling is like do this exactly like how I tell you.
You're in a box.
You're in a box.
Japanese
Very true.
the thing, right? You just darken that line over and over again.
But the difference between Japanese, and that's exactly the same, but the difference between Japanese is that like the people who are then telling them are now like very good at now telling them exactly what to do. Right? Right? Here we are the other way around. Right? We want the people to think for themselves, but we ourselves are not clear what we want them to do, right? But they want to be told exactly what to do, right? Whereas in the West, it's the opposite of the Japanese, where they're used to thinking for themselves, so they're kind of looking for. I mean, this is also very clear. Like a lot of big software companies, right? They'll be like, "Oh yeah, the Indian." What do you call the Indian studio that is here, the Indian team that is here, they'll do exactly what's in the spec. You know, they won't like in that time. If you give them exactly the spec, they'll do exactly what's in the spec. Right?
उनको क्या मालूम हम गधा मजदूर है. Just doing what we are told to do.
Yeah, you have to, especially in games, because it's such a fluid medium.
Yeah.
It's entertainment. There's like, how is your art going to come if everyone doesn't put in their.
And it's a blessing to have people like this in smaller studios. मिलते नहीं है यार, seriously. Yeah. So comparatively, like पहले जो perspective था लोगों का, ठीक है, like the people, youngsters who wanted to get into games versus now that you because you are doing a lot of teaching stuff also, you meet these young kids now. What is the difference that you see?
No, I think there's a lot more exposure now. There are a lot more people who play games. Back then, you know, we grew very fast. Right? Once we realized that mobile games are doing well, and we started like building a team, we needed to get like 30 people within 2 months time. Now imagine like we all been running studios. Imagine hiring 30 people in 2 months time. Right? But the way we did it was we weren't looking for people who had XYZ experience. We were looking for anyone who's a programmer. Right? So 90% of the people had no exposure to games. Whereas compared to today, I mean, generally PC games, console games, internet, everything has become also a lot more this thing. But even on the mobile phone, right? You won't find a single guy who's not played, some kind of mobile game. Yeah. In fact, I am at this level, especially for the type of game that I make. Now I'm on the other end of the I don't want people who played so many console games.
Because that's their mentality now, right? Like I want to, even before I get into industry, I want to build a AAA game.
Which is very difficult.
मेरा भी यही था जब मैं
मेरा भी यही था. I joined Indiagames because my website had a PC console games department.
मुझे ऐसा ड्रीम था कि मैं FIFA पे काम करने वाला हूँ at some point.
And then you ended up building that football game.
What football game?
The finger wala, nahi, the Premier. You built this fantasy.
The fantasy game,
football
I built it. Yeah. That was just after college actually I built it. Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah.
FIFA नहीं तो ये तो.
FIFA नहीं तो ठीक है, fantasy sports कर लेंगे वो actually.
I keep telling people कि अगर back when I was starting, if you had come and told me that your best games would be a game about cutting soap or a game about crushing objects or about washing things, I would have laughed so much at you. I would have laughed so much at you.
क्या?
You know? Yeah, we wanted to create demons and orcs and all that, like fighting and shooting and all that stuff.
No, but I think the thing is that I think a lot of that is true for every industry. Like who knows what, like if a person wants to get into filmmaking, you think, wow, मैं तो जाकर शोले बनाऊंगा यार. They get out and then but today there's so many jobs in filmmaking, right? And they could be doing any one of those, right? Might be like a TV, like production assistant or something.
They don't need a job right now. What I feel is they don't even need a job in that industry. There's a platform available. That
YouTube में बना दो, upload कर लो.
Just go.
That's why you do it.
Just picked it up from there, dude.
You say you wanted to be a filmmaker.
तो वैभव, तुम्हारा next film कौन सा वाला है? कब रिलीज होने वाला है?
The Underdog.
The
I'll make the sequels to ये अभी रॉकी का जो भी चल रहा है उसके बाद में.
Rocky 9, what 12? I
No,
don't know.
now it's Creed ना.
Oh, it's Creed, huh? So Creed 7.
Like Rocky 7, Creed 2.
Like Krish 3.
Krish 3. कोई मिल गया part for Krish 3.
And now there's this ABCD ka version 1, version 2, and now there's Street Dancer 3. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but this mentality, like when people tell you, the younger guys tell you that मेरे को sitting in India, they want to focus on getting a job outside India, the bigger companies.
It's possible. Anything is possible. But you have to do a lot of work. It's very difficult because, okay, here's the thing, right? First of all, sitting in India, getting a job in India itself is very difficult, right? Everyone knows that. You have to do a lot of work. Right? And then getting a good job in India and getting a high-paying good job in India, in the gaming industry. So now you're not even left India, right? Now, you're thinking you're going to get a job anywhere else in the world. You don't have that advantage of work permit, right? So you have to work towards that, right? There's so many different things, and I know people who have ended up doing that, but they are damn smart. Not necessarily smart in brains or like intellect or anything. They're just damn smart, like jugadu in the way they get things done. Very clever, right? They're the ones who know how to go about getting those things done, right? कौन सा पेपर चाहिए, कौन सा वीजा अप्लाई करना है, कौन सा कंपनी को हायर करेगा. So far, I don't think I've met anyone who have actually gotten from India. I've met a bunch of people who worked here and
they grew here and then they shifted to the other countries, like in the bigger.
And even in the big countries, not very large studios, maybe large mobile studios.
Yeah.
Right. I can't think of one example of maybe one person who has joined a large AAA studio as a developer or designer or not. Artists, though, there's been a lot. Art has the biggest, I think, probability of getting into a
Right.
yeah. I'm developing games for specific audiences. So I'm developing for kids, or I'm developing for serious games or something. I want people now who think about this as how do I now take my knowledge and apply it to any audience, right? So I'm sick of interviewing people saying I've played so many games and I've been playing console games for 20 years. Like, but can you design for kids?
Because similar example, when I used to work at Games 2 that was Flash games, right? But वहाँ से निकल के हंगामा में the complete change was that we started working on DTH. ठीक है, तो वो बनता था 2 MB में, Flash games were 2 MB and this is like 200 KB में तेरे को पूरा गेम बिठाना है. 200 भी नहीं, वो ज्यादा था, I think 150 KBs में तेरे को पूरा गेम बिठाना है. And that was like a challenge of utilizing that knowledge and trying to fit a complete game into that one chota thing. So yeah.
But that's from a technical perspective.
Yeah.
Now, from a design perspective, what can you do?
Yeah.
Right? And then will you do it well if you're not the audience?
Yeah.
Right? Then what happens? I don't know. In my experience, it's difficult. You have to get people excited about the game that they are building.
But that's something you're doing now, right?
I'm excited.
If we can jump into what you're doing currently, isn't that something you're doing right now? You are building games for kids, like you said.
Yeah. So I'm doing multiple things still. So when I started the studio also, the idea wasn't to build games for kids. So the idea was actually to, the thing that you don't want to do, I'm saying that's what we thought we could do, right? Which is build games for the Indian audience, right? Okay. And I still think we can do that. But after 2 unreleased games, we realized...
That's where you started, right? The Bollywood
Fighter, we did one game called Bollywood Fighter, which we came to about 70-80% of completion. And exactly the reason why I didn't launch it, because I knew that it wasn't free to play ready.
Okay.
All those things that I know that वो IIP नहीं चलेगा इसमें.
But you didn't feel like just at least putting it out there?
I think it's multiple things happened, and we got some work for hire work in the middle, and say, after we finish this, we'll finish that and put it out there. It never happened.
But you'll end up doing it, right?
Yeah. No. What happened also is that we started off with Bollywood Fighter, which is Indian themed and like Bollywood-ish music and Bollywood characters.
I know. The dialogues and everything was from complete.
The Bollywood boss was the one which has the dialogue. So that's the second game. So the one which you did the work for was the second game. So Bollywood Fighter that we started, when we first started was at that time we were doing it in Cocos because we wanted the file size. I was convinced that I can get the whole game in that visual style that you saw in like 12 to 15 MB. I was convinced, and I had experience in like optimizing, and I saw what the studios were doing. I mean, the engines were doing so far. I don't know.
So why was it important to get it in 12 to 15 MB?
At that time, I felt that and from all my experience in the Indian this thing is that like the file size was still very important. File size was important because of data costs. And because of the amount of space that you had on your phone.
This was before Jio.
Yeah, but Jio, you think Jio solved this, right?
No, I don't know.
It kind of did. I don't think it's 100% solved, but I think yes, it has made a big difference. That, to the extent where now we ported it onto Unity and saying that okay, we're not worried about that file size anymore. We just need to get the game right.
Yeah, it's Jio and all the Chinese smartphones, the cheaper ones that have come about now with the extra amount of space.
Technology goes too fast.
Yeah, it does. I remember actually back in I think 2015, this was, I think all the talk was about 5 MB games. Keep your file size as low as possible for the India market, and then you'll get the downloads.
And Unity taking up 7 MB of free space.
Yeah. No, but there have been companies who have done well keeping that. So Appon is the best example of that.
Okay.
You worked with Appon, right?
Not worked, but I know.
So because Swaroop also comes from the same background. He comes from optimizing mobile games, right?
I see.
So when I don't think he touched Unity till 2 years ago. Right? Can you imagine in this day and age, you're doing mobile games for such a long time, he doesn't touch because he was doing everything on native. So their cricket game also currently is like under 20 MB or something like that.
So all those resource management games that they built were all on a native. Oof. Shit.
Even I didn't realize that till I had a long conversation. I was like, yeah. And he was telling me all his optimization. He said, iske liye ye kiya, uske liye wo kiya. Like, we did this in Java. And then I'm telling my guy, hey, why can't we use palette to change the colors? Yeah, why do we need to use like, textures and stuff like that?
वो नहीं है YouTube पे.
It's like you have to go through the whole thing to be able to know that what is possible. Technology, like he was working on native. Yeah. He had complete low level access to be able to do that. Once you're working on an engine, you're slave to the engine.
Yeah.
100%. Well said. That's very true.
So and then after Bollywood Fighter, Bollywood Boss, and we started doing work for hire work, which was basically kids games.
Okay.
And then, the funny thing was like my daughter was also exactly that age group of the game that we're doing, and that's when I realized that I really enjoy doing this because then she plays with me, she tests it, she enjoys the game that I'm playing, and I like do
Test at home.
Yeah, test at home.
And it's the most honest tester also, I'm sure.
So like when the games that we build, then she I give it to her to play, and sometimes I'm like, I don't think I should give it to her yet. She's going to rip it apart.
I'm scared of the consumer. What is the brutal comment that you've got?
No, but very, very frankly, I think you get a lot more brutal comments from people who don't have this thing because you don't see the joy also. right? From testers, you only see, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But with kids, they'll say this is not working, but they'll still play the damn game for 15 minutes. I'll tell you, we did a prototype of when we started doing the kids game. We did a prototype. We had just like, and it was like a sort of a pretend play game, and we had one table and one character, and we had like 10 different types of fruits and like 5 or 10 fruits each, and we had one blender, right? One blender on the table. Only thing you can do, this is just to test whether the system would work, right? Only thing you could do is drag the fruit to the blender and make a juice out of it, right? She played that game for 15 minutes. She made juice out of everything, made a like juice stand, the character was selling the juice. And
That's awesome.
I was like, yeah, it's pure joy, right?
Sounds like a great game, by the way.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we've extended that, and now that's what we're building on, because she's out of that age group now, but hopefully cousins and like other kids in the family and all, they'll pick it up and they'll be my testers now.
So are these your? So these were client products?
Right. So when we started off, we did about like 10-15 of these client products. We also have, so we continue to do a lot of other client products, and we did some educational stuff as well.
Okay.
Learning stuff. And my view is that there's a lot better stuff that can be done.
Okay.
Right. And then we realized that, oh, listen, if this is something that you enjoy, you can really get into it and create something for yourself. Or for the audience. The company can create something for the audience which is much better than what someone is paying you to do.
Yeah.
Right. So based on that idea, so there's a big pipeline, of course. How much it will go, I don't know. But we like start with kids games from this angle first. We'll do like this kind of pretend play game, and then there's a little bit of a twist to it. We believe in a lot of creativity. A lot of we want to. I realized right from the beginning, I was a big fan of putting tools into the game itself.
Right.
I'll give you an example. I had my first 3D game that we built. It was a game called Hungry Puppy. Again, for Java phone. Right? It's a very simple game. The 3 levels, 3 worlds and like some, 5 levels each, so 15 levels total. And it's like on such a small screen, right? There's a 3D puppy going. So how do you build a level? It's a puzzle game, right? So you have these tiles which kind of create, you have to go from one to the other, right? And we built the 15 levels. Like, how do we okay, first of all, let's make it easier. So let's make a level designer for the level editor for the level designers to build. So we built a level editor. Like, but why should the level editor be outside? Let's put it in the game itself.
Let the player make the level.
Let the player make the level. So my first 3D game also had a tool to explore creativity.
That's awesome.
I realized that I've always been a fan of tools for people to explore creativity. So we're going to do that in our kids game as well.
I think that's one thing I personally believe. This is just off the topic, but I personally believe that if a founder of a company is good in tech, right? It's a different scenario altogether, because there are a lot of things that you can do without depending on other people as well in a smaller studio.
Maybe there's a lot of flip sides to it also, because now my version is that if a founder of a company is good in art, then it's a completely different scene.
At least one of those. At least you need to have expertise in
One of those.
Yeah, I think most founders have some kind of background or the other. They've either come from one thing or the other, and then you see that like, is this studio stronger in this or stronger in that, and you can kind of make out. Today, I really feel Indian artists are phenomenal. There's such good artists there, right? And I think it's because the whole ecosystem allows for good art. But again, you have to be very clear on what you want.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of the artists, though, they know they're artists from when they're very young. when they're like 5-6 years old, they're already drawing much better than their peers, right?
Yeah.
So then you know that this person has that in him or her, that they could become some form of an artist or the other.
So coming back to what Vaibhav was saying in terms of a founder, if he's a programmer, then it works out in his favor. I feel like what works in a founder's favor is being a jack of all trades. Like that is
no. What I'm saying is that is given. That is a thing with almost all of us. We know all the aspects of it, and we are decently good in everything. But when I say this, why I feel so left out, then because I am not a tech guy. Okay, तो मेरे को ऐसा लगता
you're engineering, bro.
I did it. Who told you they teach programming in engineering?
As your first
They teach you life, dude. They teach you how do you suck at life in engineering.
Life skills.
Yeah, life skills. That's what they teach you.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the thing right now, what I'm feeling is because of these hyper casual games and all these smaller games, which are making those games, you will be able to make some money out of this. It's easier for me to not depend on anybody else and just put a game out in the market if I had that tech knowledge, programming knowledge. That's it. Yeah, I have to. No, right now I'm not a great programmer. That's stopping me. I have to.
Picture bana.
He's a great podcast host, guys.
Picture अभी बाकी है बहुत.
Oh my god.
So I've seen that, especially with today's tools available, right? Not only game engines, but also programming. Like access to programming and stuff like that. You guys must have been part of the Game Jam Titans jury at some point or the other.
Yeah.
Right? And you seen how like kids at that age.
You remember,
right? They are like school kids are going out and they are building the games on themselves. Like they are like maybe have a little bit of game programming knowledge or programming knowledge, and they're just figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
YouTube videos on whatever, God knows what else. And I've seen even designers or other functional people who like there's a couple of people who worked with me, and we pretty much also segregate, right? Programmers and artists and designers, and that's how it's broken up, right? So programmers do the programming, artists do the art, and the designer do the design. But designers worked with me, and like of course, so this could be a problem with the way we structure the studio. The designers worked with me; they've done the design, and later on they've gone out and they've learned programming themselves and done prototyping and done these game jams and launched these games themselves. Nothing stopping them because there's so much availability today. So especially for hyper casual games, right? So possibility is there.
I think especially as a game designer, right, when you're designing the game, you want to see it in action immediately, or then you want to sort of try and program it, and then that sort of leads you to learning it.
Yeah.
That's what happened with me when I made my first game. So I was always a game designer, but I did have a programming knowledge as well.
Yeah. You didn't do engineering?
No, I didn't. Thank God.
But same with me also. Like first game, it was more out of the frustration ki I have this idea of what I want to do, but I have no idea how to do it. And then I was like, okay, let me just try to move an object. एक object बना के Unity में, let me see how to push it. And from pushing it, it became a drag racing game with 2 cars and special effects and animations. But it was all step by step, one by one. And of course, I had help, and I had YouTube and I had the internet. But it all starts with that one, that one piece of thing, that one animation you want to do, that one movement you want to create.
Yeah.
For everyone, it's just a question of getting up and wanting to do it. I mean, I'll be very honest. I haven't programmed in like donkey's years now. So absolutely true. I've screwed around with a lot of my programs, and they've been like really pissed off about it. But I haven't like program, and my daughter who's 9 now, and her classmates and all, they're doing like, forget at 9, at 7 they start doing Scratch and all. And Scratch, what is the first thing you learn how to make a game?
Yeah.
Visual programming, but still. But So she's like, okay, I'm done with this. I want to learn in Unity. You know, I was like, okay, you come to office, I'll get someone to. No, how can someone else? Aren't you a programmer? Like, yeah. But yeah, like she's like, you know, at that young age they want to learn.
These kids are crazy. Talking about this Game Jam Titans, right? We three were the part of the jury, yeah.
I don't know.
Where the fifth standard kid won the competition.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
In front of the whole school, from 5th to 10th standard, this 5th standard kid with a broken arm, he had this, he had a fracture, and he pitched his game. His game was such a good game. He won the title.
And he pitched it so well too.
So here's the thing, right? And I think this is the key in game development, right? I keep talking about tools, right? Like, because I'm a fan of tools and I'm a fan of, like, you know, putting them in, and because I'll tell you why. Also, I feel that, you know, if you take a look at games like what's it called, Super Mario Maker, right? Mario Maker and Minecraft and Roblox and Terraria and all these games, right? They are tools to help you, you know, create stuff out there, and the games last for ages, because there's just like, and because you can see that the community can build things you would have never thought of, right? And I say you put it out there and people will build. That is the use of the tools, right? And you need some serious creativity to say, this is not built for that, but see what I'll do with it.
Right.
You think this is a building, like a block building game? I'm going to make a racing game out of it.
I'll tell you one story of in the industry only. The Warcraft 3 was a game which had a map editor.
Yeah.
Okay, that map editor led to Dota. Okay, led to Dota, it led to League of Legends, it led to Heroes of New Earth, which then led to Clash of Clans, which led to Clash Royale, and all these other genres of games you're seeing now, and it all started because of a map editor, you know, a tool in the game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, forget World of Warcraft, even like the earliest FPS games started like that. Yeah, I mean, like when Quake and when Doom, when they released the editors, like people were like modding them and creating like wasn't Unreal created as a offshoot, like a mod of
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
The engine.
And Counter-Strike was a mod of Half-Life.
Right, yeah. No, there's a lot of experience, and that's like literally, if, you know, your question is, what do you say to kids who are saying that I want to get out and like work on those big studios? Like, start with this. You know, do something crazy. Use these tools and do something that like no one has seen before.
Yeah.
Right? And the tools are available. You don't need to know programming to do it. Just do it. Yeah. So there's a lot to do here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about putting your game out there more than anything. Finishing it, putting it out there.
Yeah.
Well, my previous studio, I remember starting it with just my co-founder back then. We had just put out one game. Then on top of that game, we built another one, put that out, and that was basically the beginning of that studio. We started slowly earning money from it, and then we slowly expanded. Then we set up the entire company based on those two games right at the start.
Yeah. Temper your expectations.
Yeah.
Don't start off saying that I'm going to build FIFA.
Yeah.
Definitely build as small and as quickly as you can, basically, because long dev cycles leads to frustration.
Yeah. Tell me about it, man.
We've all been there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Too long. But that's on an individual. Huh? That's like individuals. They decide. It's their personalities, I feel. Right. Some people are just like, we'll build. Some people are
That's
like,
true.
Like I want to just get it out immediately. I'm impatient. I want it now.
That's very true. We know a lot of people actually who spend a lot of time doing development, but they come out with insane quality as well.
But it can backfire.
Yeah,
It can backfire.
It's backfired with us. We were working on this game called Movie Studio Tycoon.
Yeah, I remember that game.
So never finished it. Spent quite a lot of time. A lot of mismanagement actually. Good learning experience though.
Yeah. Oh, it's tough. Yeah. It's a tough industry. I don't know. I think all of us have failed more than we've succeeded.
Inevitably, yes.
Yeah.
So Rishi, what are your expectations for 2020?
No. Why don't we start with everyone else? Like everyone has to say. Like don't point the finger at me.
Will you start?
Expectations is like
We'll elaborate on it.
expectations for what? I'll tell you very frankly. Like, and I'm saying that like I'm probably not the right guy because I feel I'll tell you exactly why also. Right? Like when I used to 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago now, I when I started interviewing guys and hiring people, I was like. I started in the industry at 2002. I used to run Indiagames. Like, oh yeah, Indiagames. Now I call up as like, who care?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? And that's the point that I'm making between like legendary and old. And like, if you haven't done anything for 3 years, then you don't stop calling yourself like relevant. So I feel. Like 2 years ago also, no, I felt like I was on the pulse. Today I don't feel I'm on the pulse. There's so much going on. There's something going on in esports and something going on in like, real money gaming, and then I don't even know what's going on in like mobile gaming and who's doing what in like indie gaming in like India. I was like, you know what, I'll come there, I'll meet you guys, but
Yeah, and every IGDC you hear around 100 new gaming companies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like never heard before.
Yeah, and another 100 who have already died before that.
Which is great for the market. I mean, not the dying ones, but the 100 new ones. That
Yeah. I mean, Pratik's launched his like VR
the
thing forever,
arena.
and
VR.
and like so many people have now shifted from doing gaming on VR to like non-gaming on VR. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. Who knows what the expectations are going to be?
Yeah.
I can't say.
What is your take for the 2020?
So I think we will we'll continue to see the growth in developers that's popping up because a lot of it is because of hyper casual.
Yeah.
Because it's such a easy entry point into gaming, and I think from what I understand from the live streams I've been part of, Voodoo and all these guys, there's a lot more Indians in the live streams. You can just tell. A lot more newbie Indians coming in and asking a lot of questions, very curious, trying to understand how can I become successful, with my first, second, third, whatever game.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to continue. There's going to be a lot more developers and a lot of it is going to be driven by hyper casual.
Yeah. So for me, I think the two zones, gaming and game developing. Gaming is already booming. It's just going to be insane this year, considering the streaming, esports, or whatever thing. People are coming in doing a lot of stuff in that section. But along with that, game development, of course, this thing, right? Even I noticed that, and a lot of times in Voodoo's live stream, I wait for your name to pop up. Yes, dude, they just see the chat and they put
Or the questions.
They call up the name and they answer the questions. So, because I know that we both are listening to the same thing. So game developers community, because I started doing this YouTube thing, right? I realized that there are a lot of people who have not even completed their 10th are already learning Unity using YouTube and all that stuff. So I see a lot of growth in game developers community as well. Games though bante hi rahenge, like, and because of hyper casual now, the number of games that will come out this year from India itself is going to be huge.
You know what my hope is? I don't know whether there's an expectation. This is more of a hope. At some point, I don't know, 2020 or later on, that the gaming industry, like there's a small sector of the gaming industry who can do what the comics industry in India did. Right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because the comics industry was a very small niche group, right? But they built all these very interesting, crazy cool Indian based comics, right? And now because the tools are there, because you don't need that many funds. I'm hoping that you'll find like a small group of people who just get up and say, we'll just build this, without like that thought or without that, that thing holding them back. How are we going to make money? What is this thing, revenue model? I've got this, I'm a writer, I'm going to write this like story, I'm just going to, create it. I hope that, at some point the gaming industry at least gets to where the comic industry is,
We will. Karan?
I think now, this year in India, there will be a lot more real money gaming companies coming up.
Yeah.
I think that is only going to increase. People are maybe going to try and unbundle the platforms, try individual games with real money. The growth of
that's already happening. I think
it is. I think Nazara has a game called Carom Clash. I think it's good. It's really good for the industry, because what will happen is that if people are actually paying in these real money games, and that's what it seems like, monetization, it means that the monetization is improving in India. In turn, what will happen is that it will eventually lead to growth in CPMs. Real money gaming will contribute to that eventually.
Why in CPM? But that's like ad base is different from.
They will be spending to acquire and re-engage, and if their ARPUs are high, they'll be able to spend a lot more. That will the variable is how many such companies will be there, and how much and how much re-engagement will these companies do. They will have to do a lot of re-engagement. So I think, but having these real money gaming platforms and companies, them raising investments is great for our industry, because in turn what happens is for new developers starting out, for example, they have work. There is work coming back into the industry, and this money is being utilized in the industry.
That is true.
So that is my expectation.
Alright guys, that's it from our side for this episode. Let us know if you like the video. Please like the video, comment below whatever your queries are.
Comment, like.
And share the video as much as you can. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Yeah.
You put the subscribe.
Baba, why the fuck did you cut your hair, man?
Why not, dude?
Oh, nice haircut, man.
Thank you. This isn't just the debut of our first guest, it's also the debut of my new haircut, guys. So if you like my haircut, if you hate my haircut, I don't care. Subscribe, like, share.
Thank you guys.
See you in the next episode.